Welcome everyone, EdBen24 here, and I'm here to do another video. Quick news update. I live in New York, and for those of you who may or may not know, there's a storm coming our way, particularly on like the western coast of the United States, eastern coast of the United States. I'm sorry. So I don't know if I'll be out of power in the next couple of days. So videos might not happen, so I'm just letting you know that now. Quick updates, some more updates. I do intend to finish my Volume 2 review for the issues of Volume 2 for the Ultimate Spider-Man thing that I started. Like I explained in my previous videos, I want to showcase like the next cover of what I intend to do, and release review, and Volume 3 doesn't release until Christmas, early December, the Christmas era. So I'm going to try and spread it out over the course of like the month, maybe do like an issue, maybe two, like every week or so, but I'll definitely be doing something. But to the topic of the video, I started a kind of, I don't want to say a video series, but I did a video, my anime literary elements video. The first one was on foreshadowing, and I'm here to do another one. This video's topic, Antagonist. Now, before I begin anything, I just want anyone who's not really familiar with the definition or what defines an antagonist or what is or is not an antagonist, let me just give a basic overview. An antagonist does not necessarily mean a villain. They're two different terms, and the way I understand it is an antagonist is a person, group of people, obstacle, an entity, or and sometimes the very protagonist himself, that opposes him and obstructs him from completing whatever goal and objective the story derives its narrative towards. An example. Star Wars, a very classic example. The main protagonist in the first three movies is the character of Luke Skywalker. He is the protagonist. The antagonist, and there are a lot of different protagonists, but the main one we all iconically recognize is Darth Vader. That is an example of a type of protagonist. He is what I would consider a villain. And a villain is not the same thing like I said before. A villain is a particular type of antagonist that is deemed irredeemably evil. He is evil through and through, or he or she. And the reason people usually mix up these two terms, they use them interchangeably, and it's not wrong, but you shouldn't do it. The reason why is because people misconstrue and misinterpret what a villain and antagonist, and they mix up the two terms. They are not the same thing. The reason why an antagonist is important to a story is because not only does it give the story a purpose, it gives the protagonist a reason to develop. You cannot write a story about a person doing absolutely nothing. There must be some sort of adversity posed to that particular person. It can be a political narrative, it can be a moral narrative, it can be simply a achievement-based narrative. It has to have some direction. It's usually 9 times out of 10 in most stories, because it's easiest, it's usually some kind of a goal or an achievement-driven narrative. Meaning said individual has a goal. It could be a sports goal, it could be academic, it could be just overcoming something, but there is something that he is trying to do. The antagonist is preventing him from doing that. And this gets into the second type of antagonist that you have, the anti-hero, or anti-villain, depending on how exactly the writer decides to write it. As opposed to the villain, the anti-hero or anti-villain he does not fit the irredeemable evil quality. His objectives or his reasons for doing whatever he's doing is understandable and humane. Whether you agree with it or not is a completely different issue. but is not irredeemingly evil. You can sit there and you can understand why they're doing something, even if they're doing it for the wrong reasons or they're going about it the wrong way. But there is a reason why he's doing this, or he, as opposed to classical portrayal of villains. They're usually out for something like world domination, selfish-driven, self-serving, they're just bad and they're evil. The anti-hero or anti-villain has something like he wants to obtain peace, and I don't want to say via world domination. He wants to eliminate, let's say for example, the stories about a protagonist that's in a political wing or political party. The antagonist, or in this case, the anti-hero or anti-villain, is representing the opposing view. Now, they're not necessarily wrong or right. They have different interests and different motivations, but they're understandable. The third type of common use of some form of antagonist is what I consider to be one of the most difficult ways of writing a particular antagonist, and that is the concept of being your own worst enemy. Now, as you can probably already guess, the protagonist or the person that we consider the hero, and that's a whole different video topic, the protagonist and heroes, and that's another topic. But the protagonist is his own worst enemy. Now, how does this work? Usually, you can have the character. The writer writes the individual in such a way that he has a personality or a character trait that is simultaneously, and this isn't really hard to do, a character flaw. Some kind of a weakness. It could be arrogance. It could be conceitedness. It could be narcissism. It could be selfishness. It can be greed. It could be a host of different character traits, depending on what your story is and what you're trying to do. Now, the reason why it's the most difficult is you have to write him in such a way that he evolves as a character in a way that does not seem contrived or lazy or uses one of the worst ways of writing and the most rushed ways of writing, and that is the concept of having an epiphany. You come to some contrived, convoluted realization about why your actions are wrong or why what you're doing is wrong, and it happens just because the author says it happens. Now you're saying, why is this contrived? Because that's not how life works. The way I see it, any kind of novel or story or television program or whatever must not only simultaneously show some form of character development, and that, again, is another video topic, but must show some kind of development in the character. If you rush development, you leave the reader in this kind of awe of confusion and why did this happen earlier? Why is this happening now? And it just makes your story look bad. It just does. Now, the only way that you can do this in such a way, and this is again another video topic, is usually the easiest way to do kind of this sudden change that's gradual and kind of understanding is through the use of a love interest, which again is another video topic in and of itself, and I already pretty much shut myself up for more video topics. So I think I'll just record this and probably go into the other one. An antagonist, if you're doing classical antagonists, usually, at least in the concept of anime, are usually someone who is somewhat of a combat or a combatant or rival kind of fighter. And the way you show a good fight and good character development is not only have your protagonist victorious, but you must show and illustrate a constant threat. And this is why character development is key. Not only this is why I consider character development for the antagonist is even more important than the protagonist. This is my personal opinion, because We all know in most stories, in most narratives, the protagonist will eventually overcome the antagonist. If the antagonist remains in the same kind of level of difficulty, it just seems like, okay then, this guy was rank 2 and now I'm 3. Oh, that's it. But if you show the antagonist to grow, and I wouldn't say grow, but you show him that he's elevated in strength, in power, in knowledge, in intellect, in planning, in experience, and you show that he is, the antagonist is growing in power, and you do this over the course of an entire story. It really just depends on how long your story is and what you're doing. But if you show gradually over the course of your story, your antagonist grows and develops and gets more powerful and learns more skills and is able to think differently and use different tactics and exploit weaknesses and complex planning and battle strategies and foresight and wisdom and all these good nitty-gritty kind of stuff, then when the protagonist eventually overtakes the antagonist, usually in the climax of the story, and that again is another video topic entirely. Well, I'll definitely do a video topic discussing rising action, climax, falling action, beginning, ending. I'll have to do a video of that. But when you have a protagonist that overpowers the antagonist, and the antagonists have shown to be very clever and very precise and grow more powerful, you have elevated your protagonist to a higher level, and therefore you've given the protagonist even more character development. An antagonist is simply a means to give your protagonist a means to very concise, very careful, very understandable character development. And when that happens, and when the resolution of the story takes place, you have shown your protagonist, by the use of the antagonist, that he has grown as an individual. And then your readers, and depending on how your readers think and how they are, they themselves will employ the same kind of growth. This has been NBen24, signing off.